After much listener demand, today I am finally going to answer the question I have posed for many years. Spider-Man, threat or menace? Yes, that's right. It's time. I'm taking a position, and that position is... he's both. Sometimes he's a threatening menace, and sometimes he's a menacing threat. But come on, how can you menace someone without also being a threat? And vice versa. And for those grammar Nazis among you who say I'm being redundant, it's called art. I'm a wordsmith. It's a rhetorical device. And if you don't like it, I'll tell you where you can shove that device. Okay, my intern is telling me it's time for my pills. We will be right back. I'm getting emails from the rapidly shrinking yet still stubbornly obtuse contingent of Spider-Man fanboys and fangirls blithely insisting he did a wonderful thing, shutting down a drug lab run by a delightful fellow whose street name seems to be, wait for it, Tombstone. Now, I'm glad he's behind bars, but do you know how Spider-Man shut this operation down? By setting it on fire. Do you know what drug labs do when you set them on fire? They explode! Spider-Man could have taken out the entire block with his criminally reckless grandstanding. Fortunately, New York's bravest, our firefighters, contained the blaze because that's their job. And if Spider-Man had any sense, he'd have turned over whatever information he had on Tombstone to the police and let New York's finest do their job. But no, he thought the best way to handle drug dealing is with arson. Imagine this. A stray shopping cart dents your car. You take it to the auto body shop, only that shop is a front for a drug lord called Tombstone, and he and Spider-Man have decided to have a power struggle at that precise moment. Sir, tell us the rest.
I start to go in and I see Spider-Man fighting this massive guy with fangs like a shark.
That would be one Lonnie Lincoln, a.k.a. Tombstone. Did it seem they were fighting over drug profits or merchandise? I understand there's talk of a new drug that turns its users into zombies.
I don't know what it was about. I got my ass out of there.
Sir, I understand you've been through a lot, but please refrain from using that kind of language. This is a family show.
Sorry. Anyway, I'm glad I split, because pretty soon, the cops and firefighters are there.
Ah, the real heroes. What a relief. I think we can all use a happy ending.
I thought this was a family show.
Jared, get rid of him! Have you ever been driving along, going to work or church, minding your own business, when suddenly, bam, you hit a pothole, damaging your car and ruining your whole day? Well, you know who to blame. No, not city bureaucracy. Spider-Man. He's been seen leaping down from great heights to pound the ground with maximum force. Why? There's only one possible reason I can think of. He hates us, and he wants us to be miserable. Folks, I have received unsettling reports of Spider-Man in our public parks, where children play, apparently stalking pigeons. Yes, wild pigeons. You may wonder if he's gone insane, a perfectly valid question, but have you heard of the Goliath bird-eating spider? I'll spare you the gory details, but it's a spider big enough to devour birds. Now, Spider-Man sticks to walls like a spider, he jumps like a spider. What else does he do like a spider? So, numerous witnesses saw Spider-Man swinging through Times Square like the glory hound he is, firing webs at electronic billboards and causing them to reboot. Granted, those billboards are an eyesore. In my day, sign painting was an art. But the more pressing question is, what was he up to? I have a theory. He is infecting these billboards with a virus so that they will subliminally hypnotize pedestrians. Hypnotize them into what? Into liking Spider-Man, and he's been doing it for years. This is the only plausible explanation for how many fans this menace seems to have. Another low-information spider fanboy tried to troll me, as the young people say, by claiming Spider-Man was providing a public service plugging leaks in water towers. Let me tell you why this itsy-bitsy-brain spider was climbing this particular water spout, people. Because he tampered with the water pressure system. He was seen earlier messing with a valve that only qualified workers are supposed to use. Wake up, America! Spider-Man creates the problems he then solves, then expects you to reward him with your adoration. The sad thing is, all too many do. Fortunately, you know better, thanks to me. Has anyone else heard reports of Spider-Man literally seeking out clouds of smog to swing through? Is this the behavior of a sane individual? I'll tell you what I think is going on here. When I was a lad, there was a problem with juvenile delinquents sniffing glue to get high. Knowing Spider-Man's weak moral character and thrill-seeking personality, I'd guess the same principle is at work here. But inhaling toxic substances also damages the brain, which actually explains a lot about Spider-Man. He's swinging through the city hopped up on smog. Okay, this one confounded me for a while. Apparently, Spider-Man's been seen throughout the city tampering with steam regulators. Aside from generally being a vandal and a troublemaker, why would he do this? I'll tell you why. Because when the city has to send crews out to fix these problems, they need police to direct traffic around them. That's officers who aren't stopping crime. Which leaves, say it with me, Spider-Man. He's trying to take our brave officers' jobs. Remember when Spider-Man had a sidekick? The Black Cat? A curvaceous young lady in leather. Not the kind you'd bring home to mother. And then it turned out she was a thief! Big shock, right? Well, I hear she's back. And let me make a prediction. Spider-Man's going to give her a second chance. Is it because he's naive? A thief himself? Or is he just thinking with his web shooters? Spider-Man, I know you're listening, so let me issue a warning now. As the old saying goes, lie down with cats, get up with fleas. What's that? My intern is yammering in my ear again. It's dogs? I thought it was cats. It doesn't matter. The metaphor still applies. Dogs, cats. Go away, Jared. Friends, today we have a caller who's been a victim of what people call the corruption that infects otherwise law-abiding citizens, causing them to go on violent rampages. Police assure me these corrupted are not responsible for their actions, so I am not divulging my guest's name. Tell us, caller, what was it like?
Surreal. Like I was in a nightmare world, surrounded by monsters. And every dark impulse I ever had, anger, fear, hate, was ramped up and turned loose.
Terrifying. And I understand that while you were in the grip of this madness, Spider-Man beat you up.
Well, he stopped me hurting people.
By beating you up?
I mean, he used as little force as possible.
That sounds like a yes. There you have it, people. Spider-Man beats up the mentally ill. Now, some people falsely say I make up stories about Spider-Man. And this will not help my case because it sounds outlandish, but I have personally seen listener-recorded video of Spider-Man snatching pigeons. Pigeon napping. Why? What possible purpose could there be for such aberrant behavior? I've thought about it long and hard, and I think I figured it out. He's eating them. We've always assumed Spider-Man is a man with the attributes of a spider. But what if it's the reverse? What if somehow a spider gained the powers of a man and he's stalking his prey? Somewhere there's a giant web with these poor pigeons stuck in it, waiting to be devoured. And will it stop at pigeons? Will we be next? I promise you this. I will not rest until I have the answers. Bring your children into the room, friends, because I'm delivering a lesson impressionable youngsters need to hear. My guest today is a man who learned the hard way that dressing up like Spider-Man isn't cool. Go ahead, sir.
Well,
I wanted to fight crime and help people, and I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so I put on a costume like his and tried to do what he does. Oh, boy, was that a mistake. I almost got killed. I'm just lucky the real Spider-Man saved me.
Let me stop you right there because I think the salient point has been made. Emulate Spider-Man in any way, and you will die! Don't do it, kids! And that's another one of Uncle Jonah's life lessons. Jared, trademark that. Our next caller was involved in a frightening hostage situation. Tell us about it, please.
Oh my God, I thought I was gonna die, but Spider-Man got involved and it...
Totally unconcerned with your safety.
Well, he did save me.
Through sheer luck, you could have been brutally killed.
Yeah, sure, but I could have been killed if he wasn't there.
Let's refrain from unfounded speculation and focus on solid established fact. Spider-Man does not care if you live or die. Now, if there's one thing I can't abide, it's egomaniacs who use the internet solely to draw attention to themselves. And we just had a real meeting of the minds in that respect, as the online personality Screwball pranked fellow narcissist Spider-Man into an epic snipe hunt that put innocent people in danger. On the one hand, Screwball did show us all just how gullible and reckless Spider-Man is, rushing headlong into dangerous situations without knowing or caring who he'll hurt as long as cameras are on him. On the other hand, Screwball herself is no better. Unlike me, she's not trying to expose wrongdoers like Spider-Man as a public service. She's just in it to promote herself, which I think is absolutely despicable. Now don't go away. Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson will be right back after this important message about how you can buy my book. Folks, you've heard me express grave concerns about the risk to civil liberties posed by the police department's crime system and their omnipresent towers. But at least the intention is to stop crimes. Now, recently, Spider-Man has been seen tampering with these very towers, and it's reasonable that my loyal listeners suspect he is disabling the towers so he can commit his unlawful misdeeds with impunity. But Spider-Man is not your ordinary run-of-the-mill menace. Oh, he's a 12th level Kung Fu master, 50 moves ahead menace, which is why I think he's actually hacking into these towers to spy on you and me. Your only defense? Listen to my show. All the time. If he's gonna spy on us, let him hear that we're on to him. By listening to me. Every waking moment. Longtime caller Officer Andrews is back with us. As always, thank you for your service to our fair city, officer. What's new?
Mr. Jameson, you know I'm a fan, but I just saw Spider-Man in action. I worked with him to stop Wilson Fisk's men from stealing back their hard drives. And he's a stand-up guy.
Now, wait a second, my friend. I'm not questioning your word. I'm sure what you said happened. But have you considered that it was in Spider-Man's interest to help you?
How so?
He obviously had a long-standing feud with Fisk and wants him put away. That doesn't make him Mother Teresa. It just means he had a grudge.
Look, I hear you, but why can't we give him the benefit of the doubt?
Why? Because he hides behind that mask. You trained. You stand up with your badge and name tag on, and you do your job every day. He runs and hides. If you cause the kind of damage he does, what would happen?
I'd be doing paperwork until the day I retire, and probably riding a desk, too.
And why, my dear friend, should you have to follow these rules, and not him?
You know, that's a damn good point.
I knew you'd come around. Once again, a low-information member of Spider-Man's cult, fan club, wants to make him a saint. Sounds insane, but I always hear people out before passing judgment. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, well, Spider-Man has been all over this city, stopping crimes, large and small, helping people, doing good.
Wrong, wrong, wrong!
I thought you were going to hear me out.
I've heard enough. Rational arguments are clearly lost on you, madam, but there may be hope for others out there, so let me go over it again. It is not helping when a vigilante leaps into the middle of a crime scene or emergency situation with no training, expertise, or public identity. What if he injures someone? Who holds him accountable? The answer, my friends, is me. Police reports show a rash of break-ins recently. The victim of one of them is here with us now. What happened, ma'am?
Well, my business was broken into. A flower shop. Who breaks into a flower shop? I was cleaned out. I couldn't believe it. I thought the area was safe. I see Spider-Man around all the time.
My dear, you've learned the hard way the sad truth about Spider-Man. He only cares about the glory. Something as, forgive me, prosaic as a break-in and robbery is beneath his notice. Do not rely on him to keep your property safe. The only thing he truly values is his own massive ego. Friends, there's a caller on the line we all need to hear from. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I almost got run over by some psychos in a high-speed car chase with the cops. It's lucky no one got killed. But here's the really messed up part. I saw Spider-Man in the area, and he didn't do a thing to stop it.
Aha! Of course not! Why? Because no doubt, it was too much effort. Spider-Man doesn't like effort. He wants everything to be easy, or he's not interested. Typical of his generation. You know what I blame? The internet. Except for the part of the internet that carries my show, which is performing a great public service. My next caller is a courageous member of her local neighborhood watch, here to share a concern and a warning.
I just want to tell New Yorkers that drug activity is rampant. There are deals going down practically in the open. My watch alerts the police, tries to flag down Spider-Man.
Sorry, just to be clear, you see Spider-Man in the area, and he doesn't lift a finger to stop these drug deals?
Exactly. You were right about him all along.
Jared, record that! I want it playing on a loop! A loop! Round, round! You know what a loop is! As I warned, Nostradamus-like, after Spider-Man recklessly took down Wilson Fisk without preparing for the consequences, our streets are now filled with aspiring gangsters, each trying to out-psycho the other. My next guest is lucky to have survived an armed robbery. Sir, we're glad you're okay.
Thanks. It was nuts. These dudes walk in like they own the place, waving guns around.
Appalling. When a businessman is afraid to make an honest living.
Yeah, it was a lifesaver that Spider-Man came along and stopped him.
Weren't you listening? He caused the problem. Forgive me for raising my voice. I'm emotional at the thought of what you went through. Jared, our caller seems shaken. Let's let him go.
I'm fine.
Goodbye! Get ready, folks, because this is a bombshell. We have on the line a lady whose husband was kidnapped by Spider-Man.
What? No, you've got it all wrong. My husband was kidnapped by criminals who shoved him into the trunk of a car. Spider-Man found him and got him out, then arrested the criminals when they came back.
Pardon me, ma'am, I didn't hear that last part over my intern's utter incompetence. You realize, of course, that it's possible Spider-Man arranged the kidnapping so he could save your husband and grab all the glory?
That seems like a lot of trouble to go to when he could just stop actual crimes.
It's clear we are at an impasse. My best to you and your husband, madam. Jared, go to commercial, then fire yourself. Then rehire yourself before the commercial ends. But no, your job hangs by a thread. If I paid you, I'd cut your salary in half. Not long ago, the demons committed another heinous act of terrorism when they took a tour bus and all of its occupants hostage. We have one of those occupants here with us now, a Mrs. Edna Packer of Edina, Minnesota. What happened, ma'am?
Well, these horrible men in masks came on board with guns and held us all hostage. I thought I'd never see my kids again. And then the police saved us, and Spider-Man, of course. He was so brave.
Mrs. Packer, I'm so glad you're safe. And also that I can enlighten you about Spider-Man. You're from out of town, so you don't know what a menace he is.
But he saved me and my husband.
But look at the big picture. Do you have these kind of crimes in Edina?
Oh, certainly not.
And do you have Spider-Man in Edina?
No.
And that is not a coincidence. You're welcome, Mrs. Packer. I consider explaining these things a public service. Now, friends, you know I'm always open to differing points of view. So after a police officer called me out on social media for being too hard on Spider-Man, and it went viral and people just wouldn't shut up about it, I agreed to a debate. Officer, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, so me and my guys were in a shootout with some desperate characters who had nothing to lose. I mean, they didn't care if we all lived or died. And somebody would have, trust me, if Spider-Man hadn't helped us.
All right, fair enough. I'm not saying he never does anything good. I'm saying he causes more problems than he solves. You had to go to the academy, right? Be thoroughly trained? You have rules to follow?
Sure, but he seems to know what he's doing, too.
It worked out for the best this time. Next time, how do we know Spider-Man won't cause the deaths of all concerned?
Well, he never has before, has he?
I believe we'll just have to agree to disagree. Thank you for your service. Goodbye! Savvy listeners don't need me to tell you that the Demon's cult, gang, terrorist organization, all the above apply, is out of control. We have a survivor of one of their brazen attacks on the line. Go ahead.
I was home, in my building, when we got word there were demons on the roof planting bombs. We had to evacuate, but we also heard there were snipers waiting to pick us off if we tried to leave.
Despicable. Fortunately, the police and the bomb squad handled the situation.
And Spider-Man, he...
Jared, cut the call! Sorry. Hard to hear when we're talking over each other. Clearly someone traumatized by a terrifying experience. For resources to help with PTSD, go to our website. Another public service from J. Jonah Jameson. Friends, you know about the Spider-Man-related breakout at Rikers Island. Where are those escapees going now? To your neighborhood! Our next caller witnessed it personally. Please, tell us.
I was just coming back from the store when a swarm of guys in prison jumpsuits came out of nowhere, like a pack of wolves. Robbing, beating, looting. Lucky for us, Spider-Man took them down.
Yes, well, you know how criminals are. Rival factions and all. He didn't want the competition.
Competition? Spider-Man didn't steal anything.
That you know of. Next caller. I've expressed my concern with Sable International's heavy-handed tactics. Our next caller witnessed them firsthand. Tell us what happened.
A bunch of us were protesting Sable, standing up for our rights like you always say, and suddenly they just start beating on people and arresting us for no reason.
This is always the risk of giving anyone too much power. They abuse it. Be aware that if you stand up to them, there may be consequences. It's up to you whether that's a risk worth taking. For me, clearly it is.
The crazy thing was, Spider-Man set us free.
Yes, well that's what happens when the supposed authorities start breaking the law. Next to them, other lawbreakers don't seem so bad. Thanks for calling. We're out of time. People, I always thought Spider-Man was a few geese short of a gaggle, but this confirms it. As if that atrocious white spider wasn't enough, I've had repeated sightings of him in a new outfit. Some sort of punk rock-inspired thing that makes sane people want to tear out their eyeballs with a rusty spoon. Now, I was around for the birth of punk rock, and I did not care for it then. It's a flagrant declaration of disrespect for authority, and if Spider-Man is going down that route... Oh, no, I just had a terrifying thought. What if this isn't the Spider-Man we know, but some sort of metal mohawk-wearing copycat? What if there's more than one? Jared, go to break. I need to lie down. Folks, you know I'm not one to promote conspiracy theories. Except ones I think are worthy of further discussion, like this one. I've heard reports of Spider-Man hovering around radio towers. At first, I thought he was sabotaging them. But a far more alarming possibility came to mind. In his misguided delusion that he is protecting us, is he hacking into all our conversations? Business deals, credit card transactions, those personal calls with the wife when you're on a long, lonely book tour. I mean, when one is on a book tour, I wasn't talking about myself. I don't do that sort of thing, and anyone who thinks they have recordings of me doing it is wrong. As you probably heard, Spider-Man stopped the crime boss Hammerhead's thugs from robbing the Museum of Contemporary Art. Good for him, right? Wrong! They nearly demolished the place and everything in it! They were shooting rocket launchers indoors! See, even if you assume good intentions, which I do not, this is the problem with Spider-Man. He escalates every situation into an apocalyptic disaster. What good is it to save the art from being stolen if you blow it up? Now, I realize this is pretentious, navel-gazing modern art. Soup cans and ink splatters that look like they were splashed on by a drunk elephant. But I'm not an art critic. I just know what I don't like. And I do not like that webbed menace trashing our public spaces! If you followed my career, and of course you have, you know I notched my first big bylines covering the Maggia crime families. The media's declared them dead more than once, but not unlike cockroaches, they always come back, just like they're doing now. I hear people make excuses for them. They're not so bad. They follow rules, unlike the demons or the cartels. Ha! And that's true. Until they go to war with each other. Then bullets fly, cars explode, horses lose their heads. And my Jonah sense tells me there's a gang war brewing. So hold on to your cannolis, folks. Come on, Jared, that's not an ethnic slur. I like cannolis. The Maggia, a syndicate of crime families, symbols of a bygone era. Don Fortunato, Don Cicero, Don Macchio, just to name a few. And of course, that metal-domed lunatic, Hammerhead. Criminals, but ones who follow a code. Better than most, right? Wrong! They toss their code out the window the second it's inconvenient, because a criminal is a criminal, and they are by definition cowards, lowlifes, and scum. I brought down the Maggia virtually single-handed in the 80s and early 90s. And let me tell you right now, I stand ready to do it again. I am not afraid of them. Not one bit. You want me? Come and get me. That's all the time we have. Jared, go start the car. No, I'm the boss, and I say you do it. Oh, stop crying. Guess who's confirmed to be back in town? That feline felon, the Black Cat. Seems she led Spider-Man on a merry chase before getting away. Ever notice how that happens a lot with him and her? Funny how he can hold on to a dinosaur man or a human rhino with no problem, but a mere slip of a girl gives him so much trouble. Look, it's not that long ago when I was a young man myself. I get it. And I said a gams, a shapely derriere, a few batted eyelashes, and a hormone-addled youth can easily get hornswoggled, which is exactly why Spider-Man has no business handling this. Leave it to the professionals. We have lady police officers now. Maybe this is a chance for them to prove they're as good as men, which I have no doubt about, but there are less forward-thinking people out there. The internet's rife with footage of Spider-Man chasing the Black Cat across the rooftops. And apparently, there are hordes of young people cheering them on. They're called shippers. No, that has nothing to do with boats. It's short for relationship. As in, they really want Spider-Man and the Black Cat to be together romantically. Or they really don't. And they have quite intense arguments about it. Flame wars, I believe, is the term. You know, in my day, we didn't have time for flame wars about shipping. You know why? Because we had jobs. So here's J. Jonah Jameson's public service announcement to our youth. You're into shipping? Join the Navy! Bar fights are nothing new in this town. But the one that cleared out the Blackwing Tavern wasn't just your typical beer-fueled brawl. That particular establishment has, let's say, alleged ties to the Magia. And guess who was right smack in the middle of it? Spider-Man and the Black Cat. At this point, I think it's fair to ask, who is on whose side here? Are Spider-Man and the Cat working for rival Magia families? Or the same one? Or, and remember, I always think 10 steps ahead, are they starting their own family? Huh? It would explain a lot about why Spider-Man, who clearly has no respect for the law, takes down criminals. Less competition for him and his gun mall floozy. We might just have Bonnie and Clyde in spandex on our hands. You youngsters won't recall, but there was an earlier Black Cat. A criminal from the old school. And of course, like everything else these days, they had to reboot it with a woman. Now, no one loves women more than J. Jonah Jameson. In a respectful, non-harassing way, of course. I just think this new Black Cat is a bad example for our young ladies. The original stole and took his chances. He didn't try to convince us he could be a good guy like this Jezebel did, remember? She ran around playing the crime fighter until it became clear she was stealing from the very crooks she arrested, which proves the point I always make: a Black Cat cannot change its spots. I know they don't have spots, but you get my meaning. Wait. Jared tells me black leopards do have spots. You just can't see them. I was right after all. Ha! My loyal listeners have called in reports of Spider-Man recklessly vandalizing public works, smashing open power relay boxes and other structures relating to important public and private services. Some have even said it appears he's looking for something, but he never leaves with anything. My friends, I think it might be time to consider that Spider-Man might just be a few sprinkles short of a sundae. Not that dressing up like a bug and swinging around the city is the behavior of a well-adjusted individual, but now, either he's looking for things that aren't there, meaning he's delusional, or he's venting uncontrollable rage. And either one of those possibilities means it's time to call the man in the white coats with big butterfly nets. That's still a thing, right, Jared? What do you mean it never was? Another day, another piece of priceless New York architecture destroyed by none other than Spider-Man, the Webbed Wonder. Was the Harlem Sanitarium in the best condition? No. Did the doctors there at one point commit horrible atrocities against their patients? Probably. Does that mean we should let spandex-suited vigilantes swing willy-nilly through a piece of our history? I think not. It is our duty, nay, our responsibility to maintain these shameful monuments to our past, because that's the America that I call home. like I said to my doctor when she recently told me to calm down, I won't, and I'll tell you why. I'm certain the police could have handled whatever petty argument was going down at the sanitarium without the destructive force of the webhead's wacky weapons. What say you, New York? We're here to talk about a hot-button issue today, folks, and that's crime boss Hammerhead. It turns out that petty argument at the Harlem Sanitarium was actually a Magia smackdown against this flat-topped flop. But here's the thing about Hammerhead, valued listeners. He might be an unhinged, rampaging cop killer who my assistant Jared keeps calling a beta, for reasons that I'm certain must be shark-related, but he has some interesting ideas. What's so wrong with pining for the good old days? Hammerhead wants to bring New York back to a time where people didn't get offended by everything, and spiders were just bugs you killed in your apartment, and I didn't have to take blood pressure medication. Now, if we could just stop him from destroying the city and its citizens in the process, wow, that would be great. Today, on Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson, the Magia are turning the streets of Manhattan into a gang war. Why, you ask? Because nobody listened to me when they had the chance. If we just cleaned up the city, returned to our collective senses, and run Spider-Man out of town, not necessarily in that order, then a psychopathic crime boss wouldn't be wrecking New York in some misguided pursuit of that same goal. Look, Hammerhead's impulse to take us back to a simpler time before any of us had heard of web shooters isn't wrong. But his methods are obscene. Attacking the police, terrifying citizens, the man gives simpler times a bad name. Like this infernal sodium-free beverage I'm being forced by the medical establishment to drink for my health gives soda a bad name. And meanwhile, where's our city's so-called savior, Spider-Man, in all this? I need to lay down. Friends, our streets are safer than ever before, thanks to the tireless efforts of the swinging spectacle, Spider-Man. Oh, just kidding! Our streets are actually in more literal danger than they've ever been because it seems like someone made Hammerhead's idiot men resort to digging up roads in the middle of rush hour! It's clear that the only way crime boss Hammerhead thinks he can get people to listen to his pleas for a return to decency is by actually razing this city to the ground. And while I frankly find this sentiment admirable, just like my doctor thinks it's admirable that I've cut back on alcohol consumption, I think we can all agree that we'd much rather get home on time and alive than late and dead. Meanwhile, Spider-Man, it seems, is actively assisting the Magia during all this. Spider-Man or Spider-Mob? You decide. First of all, I'd just like to make it clear that I am perfectly capable of running this show alone and absolutely know how to work this computer by myself. Shut it, Jared, I'm getting to it. But you, loyal listeners, should know that I choose not to. I'm getting to it. And that's why I have decided, of my own accord, that's enough, Jared, to bring my assistant, Jared, back to the Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson operation. And to apologize to him on the air, which is what I'm doing now. Right now. And are you serious? Are you really doing this right now, you little... And to give him a raise. Tune back in soon for more Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson. Loyal listeners, I've been told I need to lower my blood pressure by several points if I plan on making it to the next decade, and I'll tell you what. I can't! Not so long as the Scarlet Swinger is still sweeping through our streets. He wants us to believe he's here for the good of the city, that he saves lives, that he's a champion of the innocent. Well, who was he championing today when he let an anti-Magia witness disappear in broad daylight? This could have been the one person vital to getting Hammerhead arrested. Now, you know I'm all for some reform in this town. So there are a few things on the Stuff J. Jonah Jameson hates list higher than witness tampering. Right behind Spider-Man, there it is, witness tampering. But Spider-Man let Hammerhead get away with it. And here we are. And here I'll stay at a solid 140/95 until someone puts this menace behind bars where he belongs. Now, typically, I don't like to trash talk other... Who put this note here? What's a content creator? That means nothing, Jared. Those are two meaningless words that put together make one meaningless phrase, Jared. What I'm trying to say, listeners, is that I don't speak ill of other extremely famous and influential New Yorkers like myself. But we need to get one thing straight. Screwball is a menace to this city, just barely surpassed by Spider-Man himself. Do they hand channels out to just anybody these days? This purple-haired punk is allowed to run rampant online, and if she isn't kept in line, she's going to cause a total societal collapse. I can't tell you what to do, fine listeners, and I would never suggest you do anything borderline illegal. But if Screwball's channel just so happened to be shut down and she was never able to broadcast again, I think that would be a fine way to protect your city. Finer than anything Spider-Man's ever bothered to do for us. Well, folks, it seems I have a retraction to make. Some of my previous comments about finding Hammerhead's ideas interesting, because he wants to make this beautiful city respectable again, may have been taken out of context. Hammerhead is a violent and poorly dressed murderer who, it turns out, has actually been stealing superpowered weapons in order to rule this city by force in a sort of coup d'etat that I'm certain no one could have seen coming. Especially, apparently, Spider-Man. Now, I stand behind everything I said about admiring Hammerhead's motivations. Kids these days need to put down their smartphones and stop their floss dancing and get jobs, like the rest of us did at 8 years old, to learn some responsibility. And I think we can all agree that his methods belong in the trash can, and weapons should stay out of discussions about decency. All I have to say is that none of this would have happened if Spider-Man had just stayed off the streets in the first place. I don't know how exactly, but I know it's true. And now I'm going to bed.
Some cars getting pretty bad.
We got this, Spider-Man. Thanks anyway.
Spider-Man is a failure. You might think this would make me happy, and to some extent you'd be absolutely right. But today, I am tired. Tired of all the senseless violence continually afflicting our streets, which that masked menace failed to put an end to. He failed to stop Hammerhead and his men, who are now using stolen Sable International weaponry to wreak more havoc than ever. And speaking of Sable, Miss Abuse of Power herself is back in New York, this time aboard some kind of fancy schmancy gunship. Where was that when the city was cowering under the terror inflicted by Martin Lee and Otto Octavius, huh? Collecting dust in a Simcarian warehouse? It's a shame she and Spider-Man couldn't have done us all a favor and just taken each other out. Folks, we need to talk more about this live streaming egomaniac screwball. It's bad enough her show features and glorifies that narcissistic webhead Spider-Man, but her shows, if you can even call them that, are putting hard-working New Yorkers in harm's way just so she can gain followers, whatever that means. Can't you see her ridiculous stunts are nothing more than a desperate ploy for attention? Come on, folks, you're smarter than that. By watching her shows, you're literally hurting yourselves. So, you ask, what should we do instead, Jonah? Here's an idea. Tune into my show instead. The only thing I'll hurt you with is the truth. Damn, that's a good line. Write that one down, Jared. Let's use it in the next promo. It turns out traditional media isn't dead quite yet. Not that any of my listeners ever had a doubt. They're used to getting world-class content on a regular basis. But I'm, of course, talking about Screwball and her live-streaming band of bandits finally getting yanked off the air, or the web, whatever. The point is, we can all once again rest easy knowing we don't have to live in constant crippling fear of the awful sound of a so-called internet personality spewing nonsensical acronyms into the Ethernet. Internet. Whatever. How is this for a meme, Screwball? Goodbye! What do you mean that's not a meme? Of course it is. I just made it one. No, Jared, I said I wanted crushed ice, not... What do you mean we're live? Oh. Haha! Listeners, brushheads, stop me if you heard this one before. Spider-Man just chased a bunch of thugs through the streets, putting citizens in danger and leaving millions in property damage in his wake. And this time, he had a little help from a certain silver-haired vigilante who turned the financial district into her own personal shooting gallery with a flying death machine. But that's not the worst of it, folks. Oh no. What could be worse, you ask? The traffic, the gridlock. It was so bad that yours truly missed a very important dental appointment. Now I have to wait 6 months for the next opening. How many other people miss dental appointments because of this? Dozens? Hundreds? Thousands? Which, of course, leads us to the obvious conclusion. Spider-Man causes tooth decay. Reports are flying in about an incident in Midtown involving, you guessed it, Spider-Man. It's the same old story, same old menace. But here's a terrifying little wrinkle. My sources tell me that the Maggia crime boss Hammerhead has now gone, and I quote, full cyborg. First we have robotic octopuses, and now a meched up Maggia? Whatever happened to the good old days when criminals would just put on a dime store mask, stick their finger in their pocket, and try to rob a bank? Oh, right! Spider-Man happened! Today is a fine day in New York City. At long last, Hammerhead has been taken down for good, cyborg parts and all. I will even give Spider-Man and Silver Sable an ounce of credit. They did, after all, land the final blow. However, while the mainstream media trips over itself to heap lavish praise on these vigilantes, allow me to give you a dose of facts. Hammerhead would have never gotten this far had it not been for Silver Sable leaving behind all her gear in the city. And don't get me started on Spider-Man stoking the fires of a gang war and forcing a decorated police captain into administrative leave. So sure, they cleaned up the mess, but they were also the ones that made it. Jared, call my doctor and double all my prescriptions. I'm in the red here, folks. Eyewitnesses have confirmed that there is no longer just one Spider-Man, but two of them. I mean, one is bad enough, but I'm having a hard time dealing with the idea of multiple menaces swinging through our beautiful city. It's just... Jared, I might be having a heart attack. I need to lie down, folks. No, don't call an ambulance. It's too expensive. Call a cab! I have a coupon in my wallet! Don't go in my wallet, Jared! I'll do it! I'll do it! This is it, folks. This is the big one. I finally have proof. For years, I have asked my dear listeners to send in photographic evidence to prove, once and for all, that Spider-Man is directly linked to the very criminals who plague our city. And finally, one brave anonymous caller has delivered the goods. We have clear photos of Spider-Man standing in the immediate vicinity of caches of humanitarian aid. Aid that was intended for Sincaria. And our heroic caller assures me that these very humanitarian caches are being sold on the black market. If I've learned one thing in my years as a world-renowned reporter, it's this. Photos don't lie. Spider-Man has been caught red-handed. No pun intended, puns are for wimps. So what do we do about it, you ask? We wait. We wait for the police to finally wake up and arrest this mass lunatic. At long last, this city is going to finally see that Jameson has been right about Spider-Man this entire time. Not only is he a thief, he's actually stealing vital food and medicine from innocent civilians who are trapped in a war zone. Women and children struggling to survive, hiding each day from a hail of mortars and bullets. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is stealing the very aid that might keep them alive. This is a new low, people. Even I could never have suspected Spider-Man of something this despicable. All we can do now as a city is to sit back and quietly reflect on just how right J. Jonah Jameson really was. Yet again.